Okay, so here receiving the great Bluey, Blue Note Rio. Great to have you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me and my band.
Oh, great. Yeah. So, what's your story about Brazil? Have you any connections in some kind of way?
Well, I made a connection around 1970. Was my real first real Brazilian connection. I was living in North London, and my family did not have a television set. My sister, my mother, and myself lived together in a little room, and there were like something like 6 rooms, but like 30 people living in 6 rooms. And it was one of those kind of real refugee type place. You know, it's like we'd come from Mauritius. We had independence from the British, so we were allowed to come to England, but it was real difficult life. We had to live in places like that was overcrowded, but cheap enough for us to be able to live. And downstairs, the owner of the place had a television set, and the 1970 World Cup was on, and I fell in love with football in a major way. I fell in love with Brazilian music in a major way, and I fell in love with all things that were really so many things that had come into my life that I didn't expect, because it was first time I saw such an international event. You know, I come from the island of Mauritius, but I've been brought up on Sega music, which is the music of the slaves from Mauritius. You know, you hear that in Brazil. So I'm watching this TV show, and they're playing the football, and I'm watching Revelino, Tostao, Jairzinho, Felix in goal. I'm watching Carlos Alberto, the captain, you know, and I'm watching them do things with the football, like Revelino kicking the ball around the wall and scoring goals, and I'm like, wow. Then on the stands in Mexico, Brazilian people with the flags around their necks playing like the samba. And I'm asking my friend, what is this? And he's saying, this is Brazil and this is the samba. And he's explaining to me, and that was a love affair. You know, talking of Brazilian love affairs, that was the first one.
Nice, very nice. And especially because I think that that team from the 70s, it was jazzy because they knew how to improvise.
Improvise, yes. They would skip over the rhythm of their play.
Exactly,
you know?
exactly.
They had everything they had a lot of things that is associated with music.
Okay.
Improvisation, rhythm, yeah, and also teamwork.
Teamwork, exactly.
You know.
How do you transpose this teamwork to your band? How do you work with Incognito? How does it work? Because you're the band leader, right?
Incognito is not a band. Incognito is a music collective.
Okay.
It was the UK's first music collective of jazz funk. Everybody had jazz funk bands, jazz soul bands, jazz rock bands, jazz fusion bands. But this would incorporate all those things into a family that would kind of borrow musicians from other bands. People would come and go, and we've had 1,500 plus musicians and singers in this band. So you know, it's a collective. And when you begin a collective, the idea is that you leave room for them to express themselves, because otherwise you may as well have a band, and if all you want is something which you know what it is and you want to guide it, have a band. If you want something which is bigger and more expansive and more welcoming of people's ideas and stuff, then you begin a collective. And that's what I have, is a collective.
Beautiful, beautiful. And do you agree that, of course, it's because it's interesting, because British bands, they have more tradition probably of rock, but I love your sound. It's so groovy, it's so funky, that it's more recognized as an American thing.
Yeah.
Not that anyone could not be. So how do you see this? How did you went into those?
But that is
jazz.
That is that project. This is Incognito. It was from the influence of the jazz, the funk, and what would later become rare groove and acid jazz. That's where Incognito started from in 1979. But growing up, you know, my first live concert was I think I was 10 years old, 10 years old. Jimi Hendrix at the Isle of Wight, you know, Elkie Brooks, Vinegar Joe, Rory Gallagher from Ireland, you know. It's like you go and see, you know, rock bands in every corner, but funk, soul, jazz, it all existed in the same banner. It was music. We never looked at music in that kind of, we would listen to Frank Zappa and laugh and listen to Joni Mitchell with the acoustic elements. We would listen to Steely Dan. We would listen to, prog rock, bands like Emerson, Lake and Palmer, PFM from Italy. We would be like drawing from everything. In a way, that's why my association with Egimoto is so clear, because we come from a wider spanning expanse. It may be that our music is more pointed in a certain direction, but where we come from is like a free thinking. I mean, my first riff ever that I learned to play on a guitar, on a borrowed guitar in Mauritius, was the Rolling Stones. Came to England. It was like my teacher would play me soul music and stuff, and I'd start to play things like Marvin Gaye, through the grapevine. You learn, and then they're riff driven,
Exactly.
and Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water, it's like Led
Burn.
Zeppelin, it's like it's just riff driven,
Exactly.
Blues. There's blues in soul music and jazz music and funk music. Very often bands don't include it, but British bands tend to include blues. R&B bands are different, but we're talking jazz funk bands.
Yeah.
They include the blues.
Nice. And I divide music into two types of music only: good music and bad music.
That's right.
It doesn't matter what groove it is, what definition
That's
people
it.
give, but as long as
that's the way Miles Davis saw it, and that's the way
nice.
that we see it. Yeah.
Nice. But what about the sound, the groovy thing that I'm talking about?
Yeah,
You agree
yeah,
that Brazilian music got a lot of?
Oh yeah, I mean, like the funk thing is in a lot of Brazilian music, and the chord changes, that from jazz that leads to bossa nova. Brazilian music is attached to all these things,
Yeah.
it's primarily Brazilians come from that tradition of black music,
Yeah.
slavery, the drums. So even on the guitar, you're choking.
Exactly. That's
It's like there is syncopation. Whatever it is, it always comes back to that. If you listen to music, the kind of like the James Brown stuff that is loved so much by Brazilians, when you listen to like Tim Maia, you can hear that. It's not just a vocal thing. It's not just trying to do the It's not that. That is one thing, but behind it is the rhythmic element, and that is where we speak the same language. The Portuguese exported the African slaves, and they took them to the islands, they took them to America, they ended up here, in this land. They ended up on my land, in Mauritius. So the rhythms, the small drums, like you have a pandero, we have a ravan, in Mauritius. And in the UK, they've been using the tambourine for years. It's the same thing, it's come from there. But it's come from the Africans playing an instrument that's got skin on it and putting it on the fire, It's like, and heating it up until we got attention to play. Yeah, so it's in George Band, it's in Quincy Jones, it's like it's right across the
and in Incognito.
Yeah, it's
as a fan, I can agree.
because it travels through these various things, but it's the same connection. It's the same connection.
What can people expect of your show at Blue Note? Can you tell us something about it?
Well, basically, Incognito, plays uplifting music. We're here to. Our cause is to travel around the world, putting smiles on people's faces. Because you can overthink music, or you can say, what is it that we're doing? We're here to entertain. We're here to uplift those who need uplifting, to put a pearl, a gem in somebody's heart, that when they leave, they feel like, well, I've come and I've got something special. I'm taking away a positive energy. We're here to unite people, because what does a club do? A club brings people together. We come to watch festivals, music. All these things are a celebration of life. So we're celebrating life. So those things we are very aware of. And I, as a band leader, am very aware that it's about communication. So the Blue Note tonight and tomorrow will be about communicating with an audience, getting a feeling from them, giving them back, and kind of turning it around until it's like, yeah, we are friends forever, and we are also now going to do something positive from here, going from here. You know, we're here to kind of put something in people's hearts so that when they leave there, if they need to do something in society, they feel stronger about doing it. If they want to do something politically, they can go and do it because we've charged them up. You know, and music does that. Music brings people together, but it also puts the fire in their hearts.
Definitely. And you've played in other Blue Notes, right, around the world.
Yeah, Milan Blue Note, we play like a week. So the moment we put on the tickets at Milan Blue Note for a week of Incognito, 2 shows a night, so we do 14 shows. They're sold out in the first day.
Oh,
you know, it's like Japan is pretty much the same thing. China is a slow process. We did Blue Note Beijing, but it's like people are only becoming, now they can go to a jazz club. And, you know, when we first,
something new for them.
10 years ago I played in China and people were being told to not move. You know, they had guns pointing at people, you know, because somebody stood up and danced. They were thrown out, you know. But now it's different. Things are slowly changing. Blue Note in Hawaii, you know, it's like in a paradise island, and then you got to play music at night. It's like we've had all kinds of experiences with the Blue Note organization, and I'm glad that there's one here, and I hope the one here in Rio will be.
Yeah,
and I hope to be a part.
Exactly.
I hope to be
part of it. My festival, everything. Thank you so much, man,
Thank you
for being here.
Thank you for inviting us. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah.
Thank you for the opportunity. Looking forward to it.
E venham pro show. Estão todos convidados. Quinta e sexta, na sessão de 8 e 10 e meia. Um abraço. Perfect.
I'll be loving